Homelander just became the most powerful being on the planet, and there is only one way left to stop him. Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Colton Ogburn, and these are all the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in The Boys Season 5, Episode 6. So, this episode opens with the return of the Legend, portrayed of course by Paul Reiser, who you may recognize from Stranger Things, or if you're really cool, Mad About You.
What'd I do? You sucked me in. How am I sucking?
So, the Legend used to have Madeline Stillwell's old job as the Senior Vice President of Hero Management. Stan Edgar and Stillwell eventually pushed him out, as he mentions later in the episode.
They all got shoved out. All of them. And I know what I'm talking about. I did the shoving.
Back in Season 3, we saw the boys pay a visit to the Legend in their pursuit of Soldier Boy.
Why was Soldier Boy here? Came to pick up his super suit.
So we see that the Legend is in hiding and working at a Vought movie theater under the name Chet Vanderbilt. The song playing is Ain't That a Kick in the Head by Dean Martin. Now, this song was used in the 1960s Ocean's 11, which is fitting for the heist mission that the boys need to pull in this episode. It's also a very Hollywood song, which highlights Legend's showbiz attitude towards everything. Now, this exact attitude is what saves him later, and it's why his undercover persona is still a movie theater employee. He's a Hollywood legend, if you will. Now, here you can see a Deep standee in the back, and there's a poster of all the Vought heroes. Some that we were able to spot are Crimson Countess, The Deep, Oh Father, Black Noir, Homelander, Firecracker, Sister Sage, and A-Train. When M approaches, Legend mentions The Deep popcorn bucket, themed popcorn buckets being a big trend right now, especially like a year or two ago when this season was written and filmed. Now, Deep's bucket is a parody of the Deadpool and Wolverine popcorn bucket, and of course this Jaws bucket. Now, the Jaws connection is obvious, Sea Life, etc., but the Wolverine one is deep. Pun fully intended. So the Dune popcorn bucket looked like a fleshlight, and if you don't know what that is, open an incognito window and Google it. That is, if you shouldn't be watching this if you're under 18, so I don't want to hear any comments. Now, the Deadpool and Wolverine popcorn bucket of Wolverine with his mouth wide open is meant to parody the foulness that was seen in the Dune popcorn bucket by having Wolverine looking like he's gobbling up some popcorn, so to speak. So, on a serious note, after what Deep did to Starlight back in Season 1, which was a very serious crime that should have landed Deep in prison and hopefully eventually will, I'd be remiss if we didn't point out the irony of his face now being portrayed on this bucket gobbling popcorn. Now, next we get this parody of the Nicole Kidman AMC ad, but with Firecracker, and she is even watching her own movie, which we saw a glimpse of in the previous season. Legend mentions Homelander's purge, which could be a reference to how Homelander is rounding up all of those who refuse to bend the knee to him, but it could also be in reference to Homelander's kill order at Vought last season when the remaining 7 members started killing every human in the building. And it seems like they also targeted certain ex-Vought employees who had dirt on them like Legend. So Legend says that MM is starting to sound a lot like Butcher. Now, this season we have seen MM acting more and more unlike himself, and instead of pushing back against Butcher, he is starting to find himself aligned with Butcher more often, so it's a nice touch that the Legend noticed this. Now, when he says to MM that he is acting a lot like Butcher, MM just stares at him in silence, a very Butcher thing to do.
Hey, you're not doing the thing anymore.
Ah, buddy, you noticed. Well, I'm sure you guys did as well. When you're watching our videos, you've probably seen me have this nervous tic where I tend to bite my lips, or you've at least seen the aftermath of it. When I bite my lips, that's just a bad oral fixation habit that I have that stems from anxiety, and I know we all have our own bad habits that we develop in our own way of coping with anxiety. For a lot of us, when we try to quit and that craving hits, it is so hard to break that bad habit chain. But instead of trying to quit cold turkey, you can replace your bad habit with a positive one by using Fume, the sponsor of this video. You guys know Fume, they're one of the longest running sponsors we have here at the channel, and it has helped me so much to curb my bad habits. First off, it's not a vape. I would not advertise a vape. There are no electronics, no combustions. It is just a way to draw in flavored air. And it uses these plant-based cores that come in many different flavors. These flavors are a lot lighter than what you get with vaping, kind of like how flavored water is lighter than soda. So in a lot of ways, it's like carrying a breath freshener with me at all times without the headaches. So right now, if you grab a Fume Journey Pack, you get a free Fume Topper just by using my code ScreenCrush. This is a soft, replaceable, chewable mouthpiece, so I have something to chew when the craving hits. So head to tryfume.com, that's TRYFUM.com, and use code ScreenCrush to get your free Fume Topper with your Journey Pack today. Now, back to what I was saying. So back at Vought, we learn that Sage is on her 35th trial of replicating the V1 formula per Homelander's request, meaning that they have done this to 35 inmates thus far, those who have been locked up in the freedom camps. So in comes the Deep, who learns that Firecracker has been killed by Homelander, yet another member of the Seven to die at the hands of their tiered leader. In fact, Deep is the only one left standing from that original lineup going back to season 1. And you have to wonder if Deep is finally beginning to realize that if even a super dedicated Homelander worshiper like Firecracker isn't safe, then maybe Deep isn't either. Then again, Deep is extremely fucking stupid, so probably not. Now, Homelander says,
"We just don't have any more room in the boat for, non-believers."
Which could be a Noah's Ark reference where God purged all of humanity and only spared Noah and his family. Now, Sage then gives Deep his mission, but Deep at first assumes that he is supposed to kill the protesters because that's Homelander's way of doing things, but Sage immediately shoots the idea down and says that no, we need you to do a media PSA.
Isn't oil bad for the environment? No.
So we're seeing Deep continue to betray his own people, just like when Homelander forced him to eat that octopus. He is betraying the very sea life of which he is supposedly the king of, all to serve his new king, Homelander. Like Firecracker betrayed her church, Deep continues to betray his. So Homelander gives Sage this backhanded compliment.
There's no way Frederick Vought is smarter than you.
Which sounds nice, but I think it's also Homelander letting Sage know that he might be onto her. He knows that Sage can crack the V1 because she is the smartest person alive, and that she might just be holding out on him and trying to buy herself some time. Now, I'm not sure that Homelander has fully reached the point of thinking that she is purposely not developing the V1, but the more and more times that she fails to deliver it, I think Homelander would become more and more suspicious. Now back over with the boys, we see that Huey and Frenchie are also trying to buy some time. The virus is ready, and the plan is now in motion to plant the virus at the church where Homelander will be preaching. Butcher wants the virus planted now, and Kimiko and Starlight are seemingly in agreement. More on that in a bit. So Huey and Frenchie, two members of the boys that won't be affected by the soup pandemic, they're wanting more time to find V1 so that Kimiko and Starlight can be spared from the virus. We then see MM and the Legend enter the room, and Legend says to Starlight,
You remind me of a young Ursula Andress.
A popular actress from the 1960s who was the very first Bond girl. Now, I'm sure Paul over at Heavy Spoilers, he'll have a dedicated 20 minutes to this little mention in his video, but we're gonna move on. Now, here you'll also notice that Huey is of course wearing a Billy Joel shirt, as he tends to do, Billy Joel being his third favorite musician. Legend mentions Golden Geisha.
You gotta go through his lady, Golden Geisha.
And he actually mentioned her the last time we saw him in season 3, episode 5.
I was balls deep in Golden Geisha, and Marlon Brando was apparently balls deep in me.
Next, we learn about Vought Villages, a retirement home owned by Vought for elderly soups.
She moved into the villages.
Vought Villages. Mm-hmm. It's a retirement home for soups.
Now, over at Vought Tower, we see VP Ashley talking with Sage about betraying Homelander.
Reading Homelander or Soldier Boy's minds? If I wanted to commit suicide, I'd asphyxiate myself.
We then see Sage use chloroform to make Front Ashley pass out, and look, contrary to popular belief, I don't know much about how chloroform works, but had you asked me if it would also knock out Back Ashley, considering they share a fucking head, I would have guessed yes, but only Front Ashley is knocked out, and I guess that makes sense because the two do seem to have separate minds, and whatever the barrier is that keeps Front Ashley from being able to read minds, but Back Ashley can also relay that information over to Front Ashley's mind without having to speak, there's some kind of barrier there that must explain how Back Ashley was able to stay awake, and then we even see her able to control the body of Ashley. Now, throughout this episode, we see a lot of, Vought history in terms of their culturally insensitive and outright racist past, such as giving Goldie the name Golden Geisha, Geisha being a Japanese female performing artist, which, yeah, that's exactly what she was to Vought. We've also got this white guy who played a Native American hero called Engine. I also love this line from Legend where he says that he doesn't like to kiss and tell, yet almost every sentence out of dude's mouth is him sharing details of a sexual encounter.
I shoved my grogger up her hummintashen. She pissed on me once. Got me in the Mile High Club. That triple banger we had in Marsha Mason's triple banger.
So we see the boys at the retirement village, and they are wanting to get the help of Goldie to lure Bombsight, another hero from back in Soldier Boy's day, who, like Soldier Boy in Stormfront, was injected with V1 and is immortal. immortal, as well as immune to the virus. And he will, of course, be a part of the new spin-off series, Vought Origins Wolverine, whatever it's called.
Vought Rising.
Thanks, buddy. Anyway, Goldie and Bombsight, they were a thing back in the day, and he's been holding on to this dose of V1, hoping that one day she'd take it so he doesn't have to watch her die, and so that they can live an eternity together, very much like a vampire turning their significant other into a vampire for the same reason. Kimiko even makes this exact comparison a little later in the episode.
Neither of us wants to die, but we don't want to be vampires either.
Now, when Legend is talking to Goldie, he says,
You and Bombsight were tighter than Woody and me before Soon-Yi.
Which is referring to Woody Allen, a filmmaker closely tied to the Epstein files, and his wife, who was the adopted daughter of Allen's then partner, Mia Farrow. Their relationship was massively controversial, still is, and they're still married to this day. Anyway, Goldie, she's not interested in helping them find Bombsight, so Butcher devises a plan to kidnap her and lure Bombsight. And we even hear Butcher say this about the elderly Soups and how they'll be dead in a few days anyway.
They aren't people, are they?
Butcher saying that they aren't people is very season 1 and part of season 2 Butcher, who has zero tolerance for any Soup, period. He views Soups as inhuman, the same way Homelander views humans like little ants. Now, Butcher's intolerance for Soups has become just as distasteful as the intolerance we've seen various villains in the series espouse upon other groups. Butcher also says that they aren't people right in front of Kimiko, and really what this is showing is that Butcher is still being affected greatly by his super cancer. He's hot, then he's cold, he's yes, then he's no, in and out, up and down. You get it. Katy Perry explained it. So 1 second, he's being kind and saying how Kimiko and Starlight can have the V1 if they find it before destroying what's left. But then on the other hand, he acts as if all Soups, including himself and his friends and Ryan, are all just subhuman and gotta go. We see him jump between these two sides of his personality, and I really hope that if Butcher does survive this final season of The Boys, and if they have any plans for his character in the future for some other kind of show, I hope that he has that cancer removed and maybe Soldier Boy can just blast it right out of his body, as we see he does fully have the ability to do come the end of this episode. Now, when MM sides with Butcher, Legend says,
What has happened to you, kid?
Now, remember, Legend had a soft spot for MM back in season 3 because it was Legend who covered up MM's grandfather being murdered by Soldier Boy. Now, Legend initially told the crew to fuck off, but he relented because he felt like he owed MM. In the present, that old MM, like we mentioned earlier, he is almost nowhere to be seen. We have seen him go through a lot of changes over the years, and after his time in the Freedom Camp, he's changed a lot. Next, we get the Deep's Vought Petroleum ad. The background shows a bunch of cardboard fish using a gas station underwater. The absolute absurdity of a gas station underwater basically sums up how much Vought has twisted the public's consumption of media. Deep also calls the gas patriotic, which further drives home this America First rebranding that Vought is trying to peddle for Homelander. What's patriotic about gas? Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
And then, this one really got me. Deep says that his fish friends cannot wait to build their homes on the pipeline, which will bring low-income housing for our most vulnerable fish communities. And you can see one of the hashtags in the Deep's post is Make America Super Again, which is a hashtag that we saw Homelander peddle in the previous season.
We will make America super again.
And is, of course, a parody of the Make America Great Again slogan of Donald Trump. Now, Huey and Annie, they have a cute moment looking at the clouds, seeing penises, and we hear Huey do a pretty good Simon Pegg impression when talking about his dad.
You know, son, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react.
So back Ashley, she is on board with helping Sage stop Homelander and release the Godolkin virus in hopes of causing World War III so that she can just go chill in her bunker for the rest of eternity. But what I'm not really getting is, couldn't Sage just do that anyway without committing mass genocide? Well, probably not, because there's no universe where Homelander would just let her go live her life in solitude. So she has to kill Homelander, and that means causing this pandemic. So anyway, Sage summons Soldier Boy to her office so that she can mention V1 to him and get back Ashley, who is hiding in the back, to read his mind and figure out what's really happening with the search for V1. Soldier Boy lies and says that they're nowhere near finding V1, and we also learn that Soldier Boy, in his own weird way that not even he fully understands, is proud of his son.
He's kind of proud of him, but he doesn't want him to know that he's proud of him?
Next, we see Sage has her Queen Maeve-themed planning book that she kept last season for her master planning. Over with the boys, they have infiltrated the retirement home to capture Goldie, and in the process, they encounter some elderly Supes who are standing in their way. This one has long super nuts, and I cannot wait to see how we censor that here on the show.
Let's not get too nutty around here. Pardon the expression.
Butcher says,
"This one's for you, Em."
Fuck you.
a reference to the long-running rivalry between MM and Love Sausage, who MM finally defeated in the premiere episode of this season. So Homelander and Soldier Boy are continuing their pursuit for V1, and they find this laptop planted by Sage in her new plan to turn the two against one another. On the laptop is a video of Homelander having sex with Stormfront after what happened to her in Season 2's finale when she got charred by Ryan. We can even hear in the video her speaking in German like she was doing in Season 3 when her mind would wander. Homelander is quick to tell Soldier Boy that it was Ryan who did that to her and that he loved her and didn't know how to let her go. And it is this shared love for that fucking Nazi that brought this father and son together. Plus, I think she's Homelander's mom, and none of them, including her, even know that, except for maybe Soldier Boy, who I don't think knows it, but he is beginning to suspect it. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, back over with Huey and Starlight. They have broken into the Democratic Church of America, which is now sporting this American flag cross, which is ironic because this violates the flag code and it's totally disrespectful of their boy Jesus, but they don't really care because they're moving toward full Homelander worship. And this merging of their perverted view of Christianity and patriotism to now create this bizarre Christian nationalism fueled by an ideology that isn't very Christian or very patriotic and is really just all about one man. And this is yet another parallel being drawn between Homelander and President Trump's cult followings. Now here we see all these pictures of Supes with psychic powers, and you'll notice several are bald like Professor Xavier from the X-Men, who is also a telepath. Starlight says,
What the f does Homelander want with all of that?
and I'm thinking that Homelander may soon realize that the traditional ways of brainwashing via the media aren't going to be enough to convince the world that he is God, so they may turn to straight up brainwashing. There's also this picture of Kate from Gen V, who also has mind control powers, and up until season 2 of Gen V was actually Team Vought and Team Homelander. Now, Huey and Starlight then come across Firecracker's body, and Annie is surprised how saddened she is that Firecracker is dead.
She's a human being.
So O-Father then finds Annie at the church. We learn that the two actually knew each other from their Bible camp days. Annie says that he was better than Ezekiel, the stretchy guy from season 1, and she also mentions Alex, referring to Supersonic, Annie's childhood friend who popped up in season 3. So here we see that O-Father once truly believed in God, but his faith has been shaken and corrupted, and he has turned his back on that faith, and he has now embraced Homelander as his new God. He knows Homelander isn't actually God, but O-Father and his corruption over the years in the megachurch pastor game has led to him being more comfortable with a God like Homelander than the one in the good book. And the parallel that the writers are trying to draw here is how many self-described devout evangelical Christians have turned their backs on the teachings of Jesus and replaced the role of God in their lives with a new deity in Donald Trump. So we then see the Deep getting what he deserves for betraying his people, or, well, his fish.
We know it was you.
Black Noir 2 mocks the Deep and admits to being the cause of the oil spill. Deep even goes as far as to call it a fish holocaust. Now, this scene demonstrates how fighting fire with fire is always just gonna burn both sides. The Deep and Black Noir just kept escalating their payback, and it gets Black Noir killed and pushes Deep to becoming even more like Homelander, killing a friend, a Black Noir specifically. Homelander then visits Legend at the movie theater and he kills this poor bastard. Now, behind Homelander, you can see a standee for a Homelander movie in the same style as James Gunn's Superman. Back with the other boys, we see Sage confirm her face turn.
Villain switches sides in the final hour. What a twist.
Bombside arrives and Butcher requests a chin wag, just like in this scene from season 4 with Firecracker, God rest her soul.
We just want a little chin wag's all.
Talk American?
Now, when Legend and Homelander enter the boys' hideout, we see the One Piece Jolly Roger logo that we mentioned in our episode 1 and 2 breakdown. Now, we should also mention that, like some of you said in our comments, that the Straw Hat skull does indeed represent the Straw Hat Pirates from the anime, but this symbol has also become a symbol of rebellion in the real world. Now, when Homelander and Legend get to the boys' hideout, they find a Taco Bell receipt left behind by Sage just to toy with Homelander, and we hear Homelander start praying and pleading, but not to God, seemingly to Madeline Stillwell. We even hear him say how he gave up his boy. And look, Homelander is, as legend says,
a fucking whack job.
But we have to remember that there is a small part of Homelander that was actually kind of kind to Ryan and just wanted to be loved. And the reason that Homelander is such a fucking madman is because Vought tortured him like a lab rat his entire childhood. And then he continued to be manipulated by Vought and Stillwell, even as an adult. And again, I hate Homelander, but I did really enjoy seeing Legend treat him normal and not acting scared of him, because he had already accepted that he was going to die. He wasn't going to leave that room alive. But Legend actually ends up surviving this encounter because he was just being real with Homelander. Now compare this to Firecracker's death in the previous episode, where Firecracker tried to empathize and coddle Homelander, and that ended up getting her killed, while Legend, on the other hand, just treated Homelander like a person. And we have seen, Homelander get mad in the past when he realizes that he is surrounded by sycophants.
Surrounded by sycophants and fucking imbeciles.
Despite that treatment being something that he has brought upon himself. But Homelander, he has a respect and an appreciation for Butcher, I think, because Butcher isn't scared of him. We even kind of get a taste of that in episode 1 of this season.
You are the only one that's ever challenged me.
And I think that same respect is seen here with Legend, and that's why Homelander lets him leave. So before that, Legend lets slip that Goldie has essentially Vought's version of a Life Alert necklace.
And next, she's shilling for Vought Alert necklaces, and
Homelander says,
Geisha sells Vought Alert necklaces.
To which Legend replies,
guess you don't watch your own news channel?
And this is comparing Vought News to Fox News, whose age demographic leans heavily elderly. So Homelander is about to get the location of Goldie, so we cut back over to that scene where we see Bombsight and the boys going at it, then Soldier Boy arrives, and we get this great exchange.
You know how long I've wanted to smash in that pretty face?
Buddy, the Queen sat on this face.
Now, when Bombsight takes off with Soldier Boy and they land in this field, we get this great line.
God damn it, I hate flying!
A callback to episode 4.
We could still fly the rest of the way.
I told you, you're not fucking carrying me.
So Soldier Boy gets Bombsight in a headlock, and he is about to snap his neck when Bombsight taps out and pleads for him to stop, and he even calls him by his real name, Ben.
Ben! Stop!
Now, Soldier Boy letting up and having this heart-to-heart with Bombsight is all teasing, of course, the upcoming show Vought Rising. Soldier Boy then offers to do what we have all long assumed he could do, which is blast Bombsight and burn the V right out of his blood, taking away his powers and his immortality. So Soldier Boy, he blasts Bombsight in exchange for the V1, and I have to admit, I was a little underwhelmed by how Bombsight looked after being blasted. I assumed his clothes would be charred off and his hair would be gone. But I guess Soldier Boy can target the energy to hit beyond the skin and char the actual blood instead. I don't know. Anyway, he blasts him and takes away his powers. And this confirms for me that this is the one way that they can still defeat Homelander, Soldier Boy. And I say that because of what happens next. Homelander arrives and his dad gives him the V1. Now, before this happens, Soldier Boy says that Clara told him this.
Clara used to say the craziest shit. That I was the strongest soup alive. The ultimate expression of what we could be.
And this is the same thing that she told Homelander here.
I think that you are the best of us. I think that you are everything we should be.
And this exchange really has me thinking that Soldier Boy has pieced together that the same way that his semen was used to create Homelander, that maybe Stormfront's eggs were also used to create Homelander, and the person who carried Homelander that he lasered open when he was born, she was just a surrogate. And that Homelander is the only remaining piece of Clara that exists. And I think that is why Soldier Boy finds himself caring for Homelander, not because they both had sex with the same woman, but because he thinks Homelander is theirs. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Homelander and Stormfront had sex. Yes, it's disgusting. I don't want to talk about it. Now, I also like this nice touch of Homelander lasering his arm open so that he could give himself the V1. So yeah, Homelander, he got the V1. And Sage, who earlier said that people are predictable, is caught very much off guard. While people are indeed predictable, our own Ethan Ing pointed out that love makes people do unpredictable things, and Soldier Boy, he loved Clara, and in a weird way, he may love his son. So there's our breakdown for episode 6 of The Boys. I want to thank Ryan for filling in for me hosting last week, as well as Harriet and Ethan, of course, for filling in on the writing. I also want to thank Ethan Ng for being my co-writer on this episode as well. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified every time we upload a new Boys breakdown, as well as other videos here on the channel. For ScreenCrush, I'm Colton Ogburn.